What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? The biggest questions of all. The questions that have dogged the greatest minds for centuries. It makes me look up to the heavens in awe at our vast, magnificent universe and wonder at the possibilities of what life is all about. Join me on a journey to understand more about who we are, why we're here, and to discover more happiness, meaning, and purpose. Let's play a game. Let me see if I can read your mind. I want you now to think of a fast food restaurant. Now think of a popular soft drink. Let me see if I can read your mind. Okay, I think I've got it. Was the fast food restaurant McDonald's? Was the soft drink Coca-Cola? Now, if I was right, how did I know? Well, these companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars globally to condition your mind to react and remember when you are next hungry or thirsty. This is called a conditioning. Let's play another game. Have a look at this picture. What do you see? It is called My Wife and My Mother-in-Law, and it's from a German postcard in the 19th century. There is a picture of a young woman and a picture of an old woman. Can you see one or both? Some people can only see one or the other. A few people can see both. This shows us that what we see around us is not actually what we get. We interpret the world based on our biases. These are our conditionings or habits. Conditionings are the key to understanding how our minds work. Now, remember in the last part of the film, I asked you to think about nothing for 10 seconds with your eyes closed. Now, most people find that pretty hard. Now, why is it hard? Where do all these automatic thoughts and emotions come from? Have you ever asked yourself that? These thoughts and emotions seem to pop up out of nowhere. In fact, they are powered by our conditionings. Now, what are these conditionings? They are the habits in our minds, the habits of thinking, feeling, and behaving. There are so many words used by different traditions. We can call these conditionings habits, or tendencies, or impressions in the mind, mental patterns, or grooves in the mind. You choose the word that works for you. In modern science, they were first identified in the 19th century by Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov, famous for Pavlovian conditioning in dogs. But their existence has been known for millennia. Whenever we go through an experience in life, an impression is left in the mind, a small impression, a bit of residue from that event. Let's say a child has been told that they're a failure, that they're not going to succeed in life. Let's say they're just told once. So that creates a groove in the mind, an impression in the mind. Now, they've only been told once, so the groove is pretty shallow and it's not going to affect them long term. Let's say that that same child is now told this again and again. Now that mild impression, that small groove in the mind, becomes a deep conditioning in the mind. Now that child grows up believing that they are a failure, and so keeps thinking the same thought again and again, making the groove deeper. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. As an adult, he grows up and is studying for his exams, say, or has a job interview, and he thinks, I can't succeed in this. I'm a failure. The past is still affecting them in the present. Think about what our minds actually are. Our minds are a product of our past. Our personalities have been shaped by the events of our life and how they affected us. Remember that the thoughts and emotions are like water. Once this groove has been made in the mind, look what happens to the water. It's much easier for future water, so our future thoughts, to go down the same groove. We react in the same way as the past. One thought keeps repeating itself again and again in our heads. Not only that, when we put the water down the groove gets deeper. So grooves create more of the same thought and emotion, which creates deeper grooves, and so on in a circle. Think about the worries that you have today and the ones that you've had yesterday. They were probably very similar. On the left, we have people and situations. Our minds react to the situation, and then we take an action or make choices on the right-hand side. But what determines how our minds will react? It's our past conditionings, which affect our emotional reactions to people and situations. And this affects the actions and choices that we make. We still have a choice, however, in our intellects, to choose something different, no matter what the mind wants to do. This is our free will. Some of the most powerful grooves are created during childhood because the sand is softer when we are children. Literally, we are more impressionable. If an event or a series of events are particularly traumatic, this can lead to a sub-part of us being created, or what is sometimes called a sub-personality. This is a part of us that stays at the same age as when the incident took place. This is our inner child. It might be the part of us that easily gets frightened or angry or feels guilt. Because that part of us is still reacting today as if we were a child. And that's why I find inner child work a really powerful tool in healing. We have to meet these sub-personalities. We have to meet these childlike parts of ourselves. We have to heal them and then reintegrate all of those parts back inside ourselves. Very powerful work that I think we can all benefit from. This is exactly like the neurons in our brain. If we keep thinking the same type of thought, the neuron gets thicker, and so it's easier to think the same thought again rather than something new. Thinking is constantly rewiring our brains. Neuroscientists have realised that the brain is flexible. It keeps changing itself. Nothing is static. This is often called neuroplasticity. Now, there are so many different types of conditionings, both positive and negative. Think about how complex a human personality can be. However, let me share with you 4 main types of conditionings that I've observed in life. These are all those grooves in the mind. Firstly, your strong desires and resistances. I want this. I don't want that. I don't want this person to behave like this. I want more money. I want respect. I don't like criticism. Think of all the things you strongly like and dislike, the things you resist in your life and that cause you agitation. Secondly, your beliefs. Life is depressing. I'm not good enough to succeed. People don't show me enough love. In our example with the child, the belief groove in the mind was, I will fail, I'm a failure. Thirdly, your unresolved emotions. Most people have a regular emotion that they experience. For example, anger or fear or sadness. If a person regularly experiences deep emotional reactions, then there may be some unresolved emotions from the past, maybe a past trauma, that needs to be released. And finally, your habits of treating others. We tend to treat particular people in a particular way out of habit. Now, there's so much more to say about these 4 types of conditionings in detail, and we'll talk about those in the next section. Now, it was Carl Jung who famously said, I am not what happened to me, I am who I choose to be. In the experiment, I'll share ideas about what we can do about our conditionings. Imagine if we could become more aware of what they are and retrain our minds. We all want to be happier, loved, more successful. Overcoming our conditionings is vital to this, and I'm excited to share these incredible tools with you. Can you think of any situation where you regularly react? Let's say you react more than the situation warrants. Conditionings mean that we look at new people and situations wearing coloured glasses. We look at the world in a distorted way, given our past. Just like the child in the example. Just because the child was told he was a failure by his parents doesn't mean that he should fail in a job interview 20 years later. He's still wearing those coloured glasses. Often, we are not who we choose to be, but we continue to live out what happened to us in our past. Now, I've observed that the majority of the intensity of our reactions to people and situations, the intensity of that reaction is probably coming from our past. A popular idea in psychology is that we react to our partners, our husbands or wives, in a similar way to how we reacted to one of our own parents. So conditionings developed from various sources, especially our parents, influence us in our adult relationships. It's often difficult to see this in ourselves, but think about your friends and other family members. Can you see their conditionings playing out in their lives? Such repetitive reactions are the source of many of our emotional problems in life. But through greater self-awareness, we can reduce our negative conditioning and consciously reinforce our positive habits. Three things can make the grooves deeper and make your mind busier and more restless. If we have repetitive thoughts, then the groove gets deeper and thicker. So if I keep throwing water down this channel, eventually that channel will get thicker and deeper and make it easier for more water to pour down it. Secondly, the more emotionally charged the thoughts, the more powerful the gush of water, making the groove deeper in our minds. The third reason is a spiritual reason rather than purely a neurological reason. Any thought or action done from a place of me, or what's in it for me, it deepens the groove. We shall talk more about this later. With self-awareness, we can choose to not immediately react. Instead, we can use the reason of the intellect to make a higher choice. Now, these shifts require self-effort. What is self-effort? Imagine that you are on a kayak in the middle of this groove in the mind. The water is the vigorous flow of your reactive mind, your reactive thoughts. They are coming thick and fast, and you get carried away with the water downstream. The mind owns you. The thoughts carry you down the stream. You believe your emotional mind and act unconsciously. The mind is pretty good at marketing. It uses powerful emotions to market its message to you. But you can use your intellect to act in a different way. You can propel your kayak against the flow and paddle it in a different direction, taking a different route. If the conditioning is strong, then it's easy to get carried away with your previous reactions. But if you paddle strong enough using self-awareness, self-inquiry and self-knowledge, you can take the boat in a different direction and overcome the strong tendencies within you. And remember, our self-effort has to be stronger than our past habits in order to reverse the conditioning. Now, once we change our reaction, then the conditioning gradually changes with repetition. We can reduce or reinforce our conditionings. That is our free will. Because now we have changed our future destiny by changing our current reactions. This is taking responsibility for the people and situations in our life. This is literally rewiring our brains. Does this mean life becomes a battle against our inherent tendencies? Do we push against life with teeth clenched? Maybe not. The process of purifying our minds can be gentle and loving. Our self-effort is our ability to simply observe and disidentify from our emotional thoughts and substitute something higher. You decide what is the higher thing to do. In summary, we have people and situations in our lives. Our minds react to them based on our past conditionings, our past habits. And this determines the choices we make in our minds and intellects, and the actions that we take. Then the actions and choices that we make, they either reduce or reinforce our conditionings. Then, we're ready to respond to the next set of people and situations which show up. And so on in a circle. This is the cycle of action and reaction. In this film, I've been using the bowl analogy and the one blissful, loving consciousness. Let's go back to that now. Conditionings are like putting dirt into the water. We probably have thousands of conditionings, desires, resistances, limiting beliefs, unresolved emotions, and we can never know how many we actually have for sure. Some of these are major grooves in the mind. Some are just minor impressions. But what we do know is that they all distort the rays of the sunlight in the bowl. It's no wonder that some of us rarely experience the glimpses of deep and profound love and bliss that we truly are.
So now we have three things that can make the soul forget its true blue nature. Remember, we started off saying that we are the sunlight in the bowl, the bliss, the love, the unity, and eternal existence. And there are three distortions that can make us forget who we really are. That these three distortions can create all the opposites of blue. And when all those opposites of blue are created, they're created so we can journey back to remembrance in the physical realm, to remember who we really are. As a review, here are those three things again.
The ego. The glass creates separation, and the glass itself distorts the light and can make us forget that we are unified with the oneness. Instead, we may experience ourselves as separate or alone. The thoughts and emotions. The churning water in the bowl distorts the light of consciousness and can make that consciousness identify with our thoughts rather than the oneness. The conditionings. The dirt in the water blocks the light and clouds us from remembering our true blue nature. Now, why is this relevant?
All three are closely linked. The conditionings drive both the ego and the thoughts and emotions. Conditionings are key. If we can understand more about each of the four main types of conditionings, then we can figure out how to transcend them, how to remove the dirt from the bowl. In the next section, we shall go deeper into each of the four conditionings, and that will set us up for the invitation to the experiment on our beautiful journey back to blue.
Let's summarise what we have learnt in this part of the film. The conditionings are the grooves in the mind, the habits of thinking, feeling, speaking, and behaving. The conditionings power the restless thoughts and emotions which come from the mind. They come from the past experiences and make up your personality. We may choose to reinforce our positive conditionings and reduce our unhelpful ones. We can take responsibility for our conditionings and our habits of reacting, rather than feeling like we're a victim of the world around us. There are four main types of conditionings, which we will cover in the next video. There are three main things that distort your ability to remember your true blue nature: your ego or sense of separation, your thoughts and emotions, and your conditionings.